Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm showing how you can make these letter and number tracing boards. This project has been going around TikTok and the Facebook groups. I'm not sure who originally thought of this, but it was really smart. I've gotten a lot of requests on how to make this, and I thought this would be perfect to make for my 3-year-old as she is learning her letters and numbers. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can make this with the engraving tool and how you can make this with your fine point blade. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you do, and consider subscribing if you are new to my channel. It is free to subscribe and you won't miss any of my videos. Here's my daughter trying it out here. She still has a little ways to go until she can start actually tracing it. I'm in Cricut Design Space, and the first part of the tutorial, I am going to show you how to make this with your Cricut Maker and your engraving tool. And then the last part of the video, I'm going to show you how to make this with your fine point blade. So I'm going to go over to my uploads, and I'm going to grab my first SVG. I am going to do the letters first. I'm not going to do them both at the same time because this is a big image, so it slows down Cricut Design Space. So I'm going to insert that into Cricut Design Space. So I work with somebody who creates these SVGs for me, so she hand drew these, and if you are a part of my Patreon membership, then you have access to these SVGs, and if you're interested in signing up, then you can have access to the letters and numbers SVG. It's only $4.99 a month, and I will have the link down below in my description box. A little bit later in this tutorial, I will show you a couple fonts that will work well for this project and how to use those if you do not want to download this SVG. And just a side note, if you are planning to use your fine point blade for this project, this SVG wouldn't work well, I don't think, because it does have this solid letters, and I'll show you really quickly. I'm going to change it to engrave, and then it'll do those kind of bubble letters. But with the fine point blade, you'll need a font that already has it like this. Hopefully that makes sense, but basically if you are planning to use your fine point blade for this project, this SVG will not work for that. You'll need the engraving tool, but I'll show you how to use your fine point blade and what fonts you can use for that. Now I want to size this. I measured the board that I'm going to be putting it on, and it is 12 inches wide by 17.5 inches for the height. So I'm going to grab a shape and grab a square. Then I'm just going to make this square that height. This is the easiest way for me to decide on what size to make my SVGs. So I'll type that in here. I'm just going to change this color to white because it's easier for me to look at it. I'm going to zoom out also. I am going to send this rectangle to the back, then I'll line this up over it. I'm just going to size this where it fits inside the rectangle. I'm going to highlight over both of these, then I am going to align and center just to see how that looks. I think that looks really good. I am going to go back over to my rectangle. I am going to delete it since we just used it as a guide to figure out our sizing. The last thing that I'm going to do is select on this and hit attach. This part's very important so that it shows up exactly like this. It's going to take it just a little bit for it to attach. It's still trying to do it, so you just have to wait for it and be patient because this project is a little bit bigger and it slows down Cricut Design Space a little bit. I sped up the video just a little bit, but it finally attached. You know that it was attached because if you come up here, it'll say attach. Now what I'm going to do is click on Make It. While this is trying to load, another thing that I want to mention is this will take it a while for it to cut, so I would recommend to turn your sleep mode on your computer off. I've never had this happen, but if it does go to sleep mode, it might mess up the cutting process, so I turned it completely off on my computer so that my computer doesn't go to sleep. This is also taking a little bit for it, and once again, it's because it's such a big project. So just kind of let it do its thing and wait for it to load. It's finally loaded. You can see here that it says at least one of your images is larger than 11.5, so it automatically adjusts it to the 12 by 24 mat. You will want the bigger mat for this project. I'm just going to hit OK. The next thing that you'll want to do is click Mirror. The reason why I'm mirroring the design is because you want to write over the board where you can't feel the cut lines, so you'll want to have it flipped. Now I'm going to click on Continue. This part of the project will only be if you have a maker and the engraving tool, but once again, I will show you how you can do this with your Explorer and fine point blade after this. Now I'm going to select my material. The cutting board material that I'm using is actually from Amazon. A lot of people that are making this, they are finding the cutting board from the Dollar Tree, but I looked at my Dollar Trees in town and they did not have any in stock in the stores. So I ended up ordering something very similar from Amazon. What people have been using for the material setting is craft board setting. It looks like that works well for the Dollar Tree cutting mats. I tried it on my cutting mats from Amazon and it cut through it, but it was a little difficult to see, so I needed my machine to have just a little bit more pressure. So I will show you what I did. I'm clicking on Browse All Materials. I'm going to go to Material Settings. I'm going to scroll down to Craft Paper. I meant to say craft board. So here's my craft board setting. It's set at 278. I'm going to click on edit and I'm going to bring it all the way up to 300. I tried that and it helped. I recommend just doing test cuts before you actually make your project. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to scroll down and you have to hit done. I need to go back to my Browse All Materials and select craft board. Then I'll hit done again. It'll show me to load my engraving tip and it shows the number 41 so I know which one it is. Here's the mat that I'm going to be engraving into. I bought this off of Amazon. They are actually clear placemats and it came in a pack of 4. A lot of people making this project have found flexible chopping mats at the Dollar Tree. I couldn't find any where I live, but I'm going to put up a picture on the screen so you can look for them where you live because they come in a 2-pack for $1. There's a protective sheet on both sides, so make sure to take those off first. When I was making test cuts before making this video, I completely forgot to take those off. Before adding the placemat to the Cricut cutting mat, I added clear contact paper. When I was making test cuts, the mat pressed into the placemat and actually put marks on it and I couldn't get it off. So I placed the transfer paper sticky side up so that the placemat will stick to it and hold it down. When setting your mat down, you'll want to make sure it's straight on the cutting mat. Next, I switch out my blade with my engraving tool. I have my engraving tip in the scoring wheel housing. These tools have quick swap housing, which makes it nice to not have to buy all of the housing for the blades. The blade number is 41. I also love my Cricut storage blade organizer. It was sold out at one time, but I think it's back in stock, so I will link it down below. It's great for all of those maker tools. I load my mat into the Cricut machine. It took about 20 to 25 minutes for it to engrave, which really isn't too bad. The one that I'll show you later where I do the dots takes a lot longer. It took about an hour and a half. When removing material off the mat, I recommend turning your mat backwards and bending it back so it prevents the material from bending. Here's how it turned out. Super fun. I grabbed a dry erase marker to show you how you can draw on there. I'm going to make my numbers one now, so I'm going to go back to my uploads, then upload that one. Right away, I'm just going to go down, then click attach. Then I'm going to go up to my line type, then switch it to engrave. I'm going to go down and unhide my rectangle. I'm going to be doing it the other direction, so I am going to turn this. A little trick is to hit shift as you're turning it so that it makes it exactly straight. So I'm going to hit shift on my keyboard and start turning this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so this is a little easier to do. I am going to slide this over. I'm just going to make this fit in my rectangle. I like how that looks, so I'm just going to delete my rectangle and I'm going to click on Make It. Once again, it's saying that I need to use a 12 by 24 mat, so I'll hit OK. Then I'm going to mirror my design again, then click on Continue. I am going to go over to Browse All Materials, then I'll click on Craft Board again, and I still have it set to 300 for the cut setting. I'll hit Done. For my numbers one, I'm just going to follow the same process as the alphabet letters. I recommend cleaning your blade before you start on your next board, just because it gets little pieces on it. Just be careful because it can be kind of sharp. Here's how the numbers one turned out. Super cute as well. You do have to put something dark underneath it to see it a little bit better, and it's kind of hard to see on camera because there's so many glares on it. Now I'm going to show you how you can use your fine point blade and also how you can use text to make this. I'm going to go over to text, then I'll go up to my font. I'm going to type in KG Primary. I downloaded this off of dafont.com. I will leave a link in the description box on how you can download from Dafont and how to install it onto your computer. I have a video for Windows and a Mac if you want to see how to do that. I am just going to select Lined. I'm just going to start typing in some letters. I'm only going to go over to D, and then I'm just going to make this bigger. I deleted my rectangle that I have, so next time I should have just hit it with the I, but I'm going to upload a shape and grab another square and resize that. I'm going to turn it white again, then I am going to send this to the back. I'll bring this over here. I'm just going to play around with it to see how many letters fit on each line. But as you can see with these solid lines, it doesn't bring it together. So what you'll want to do is go up to your letter space and bring it in. I'm going to line it up with this. So I'm just going to bring it in a little bit. Now I'm going to grab my text again and do E through H. I'm going to go to my letter space and bring this in again. Now I'm going to come up here and look at the width. I am going to copy that. I just hit Command C, or if you have a Windows, you'll hit Control C on your keyboard. Then select this, go up to your width and hit that again. Hit Command V or Control V, then hit Enter. That'll make it the same size as the last one. It looks like I accidentally put a D in here, so I am going to double click and change it to a lowercase e. Next, I'm going to go back to my text, then type in I through L. I'll go back to my letter space and start bringing it in. So one problem with this one, when I bring in the letter space, it makes it a solid line all the way up to here. So if I were to keep going in with my letter space, it's going to make the letters way too close together. So what I'm actually going to do is this little trick that I showed in my TikTok hack video. Actually, I'm going to go to my Launchpad. This is on my Mac. If you have a Windows, I believe it's called Notepad, but I'm going to go to Text Edit. I'm going to go up to my font and I'm going to change it to KG Primary Dots. Then I'm going to make my font a lot bigger and I'm going to type in the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is take a screenshot, so I'm going to hit Shift Command 4. I will just save this to my downloads on my computer. I'm going to go back to my uploads, then upload that image. I'll hit Complex. Then I'm just going to tap the background to delete it and hit Continue. Then I'm going to save it as a cut image. I'll hit Save and I'll just insert this into Design Space. Now I want to make it the same width as this, so I'm going to double click in here and hit Control C. Then I'll go back to my width and hit Command V. Then I'll hit Enter. It does look a little darker than the other two, and that's just because the height is a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to try M through P. I'm going to give the letter space a try again and hope that it works like the first two. And that one worked a lot better. So now I'm going to double click in my width again and hit Command V. I'm going to add more of my letters, and I'll probably just speed up the rest of this so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, here's all of my letters. I decided to bring this one in just a little bit because it looked a lot bigger than the rest. For these last two rows, I only did 3 letters. I'm going to click on my rectangle and hide it. What I'm going to do is select all of these, and I'm going to make sure they're all centered. So I'm going to go up to Align. I'll hit Distribute Horizontally first. Then I'm going to go back up and hit Distribute Vertically. And that makes sure that it's all lined up. Now I'm going to go back and unhide my rectangle just to make sure that it's fitting on there well. And that looks good, so I'm going to hide this again. Then what I'm going to do is select over this entire image. Now I'm going to click Attach. Now that that's ready, I'll click on Make It. Hit OK, and you'll want to mirror this again. Then click on Continue. I'm going to go back to Browse All Materials, and I'm going to go back to my material settings. When I used the fine point blade, it worked fine doing the regular cut setting for the craft board, so I'm just going to change it back. So we have it at 300. I am going to hit Reset and bring it back down, and if you look back, it says 278. So I'm just going to bring it back to the regular setting. I'll hit Done. I'm going to click Browse on Materials and select the craft board setting. I once again followed the same process for adding this mat. I switched my tool to my fine point blade. How this one turned out. Like I said earlier, this took almost an hour and a half for my blade to cut into it, but I love how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new to my channel, and consider checking out my Patreon account in the description box below. Have a great day.